you know the reason why. And I believe that the reason that I'm here is to teach people how to be and their being, that we're enough the way that we are. We don't constantly need to be fixing things. It doesn't mean that we don't sign up for growth or awareness of the world around us, but it means that we don't berate ourselves, that we are happy with who we are as human beings.
Welcome to the Zesty Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Zesty Podcast. This is Megan here, and I have a special guest, Dr. Nicole, with me today. Dr. Nicole is a doctor of physical therapy and life coach. She combines her certifications, her own healing journey, and the work with professional athletes to develop protocols for finding happiness and longevity in your life. And as you will find in this interview today, Nicole radiates and emanates happiness and joy. And so we all want a piece of that, Nicole. So welcome. We can't wait to hear your secrets.
Aw, thank you. Well, hey, it's actually now my insides and my outsides all match. So I'm super excited that now it's like joy in all aspects of life. And a lot of that is thanks to you and Zesty Gingers and all of my work there too.
Oh, I love that. Insides and outsides all match. Ooh, we're going to get into that. I want you to just back us up a little bit. Can you just tell us a little bit about your business, your work, your mission, what you're here to do?
Yeah. So my business started as a complete joke in 2017. I was transitioning. My son had been born and I gave myself a year at the job that I was at because I was commuting about 2 hours and 20 minutes a day. And decided after that year I should get a job a little bit closer to home so I could spend more time with him. And when I did that, I wanted to stay in contact with all my clients. I was the president of a triathlon team there. So I started my business and I would literally go to someone's house and they would all bring carry-in and sit with these huge coolers with drinks. And my table would just be in the center and everybody would just hang out and rotate. And I would do my soft tissue work and assess any injuries. And I would go about once a month. And that's really how my business started. And then as I got more and more into being a business owner, I got farther and farther away from that family aspect and things became more clinical, just like they were at my job. And that didn't always feel good. It felt like I was balancing two jobs. And for me, that job connotation did not feel good. And in 2019, I was at an Ironman event and right in front of me, a bike first semi-collision. And so I immediately threw down my bike. I began to respond and administer CPR and try to get help. We don't have cell phones. And that day, that athlete lost their life. And for whatever reason, it completely changed everything for me. And the reason I say for whatever reason is because there was this weird phenomenon that happened. I was there and then teammates of hers that knew her, they traveled in about a group of 8 that day for that race. They stopped racing, but other people saw the accident happen and they kept going. Some people stopped and said, "Is everything okay?" And they kept going. Some people actually helped us administer medical care. And then when the ambulances got there, they were able to wash the blood off their hands and keep going. And for me, that wasn't even an option. I was almost in like a catatonic state. And I went back to my friend's house. Luckily, I was going to go to the race by myself. Luckily, I did not. My best friend at the last minute was like, Nicole, you're not going by yourself. She came with me and she took me back to her parents' house, which is about 45 minutes away. And I showered. And while I showered, I just heard this. I was like, why me? Why does this stuff always happen to me? And I heard this very distinct answer that was like, you know why. And I knew in that moment that it was time for me to really actually do the hard things and change my life and not live as the status quo anymore. I tried to go back to work, but I put in my resignation within 2 months. I completely left corporate healthcare. I had an insanely amazing job that most people dream about. And I went full-time in my business and really focused solely on my children, my family life. That was in January 2020. And then I rode the wave of COVID. And now I'm here and my business has taken so many pivots, but I always go back to that, you know, the reason why. And I believe that the reason that I'm here is to teach people how to be and their being, that we're enough the way that we are. We don't constantly need to be fixing things. It doesn't mean that we don't sign up for growth or awareness of the world around us, but it means that we don't berate ourselves, that we are happy with who we are as human beings. And you guys talk about this integration of all the parts of yourselves. So being in your being and not in your doing is what leads to your success. And that's been a common theme for me ever since 2019.
Wow. I've never heard that story, Nicole.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What do you think it was in that? I mean, it was a very shocking event and you were the first one on the, oh, wow. Okay. What do you think what do you think led to that realization? What's it about? It's very interesting that you brought up the fact that some people could keep going and some people stopped, some people didn't. Did it have to do with that? Or was it your role in being first on the scene?
I think it was the fact that there was a couple of things. The first thing was that it was my first realization truly that life is really short.
Oh.
Because you kind of, you know, these things, but when you see someone, she literally came out to compete that day, you know, and her teammates were sharing that she was debating wetsuit or no wetsuit, what would be the fastest way to swim that day. And then 15 minutes after she comes out of the swim, she's lost her life. And it reminded me that, like, even when we're doing things that we love, that could be the last moment. And you need to make sure that you really are doing things that you love as often as possible. And that could mean something as simple as cleaning the house and learning to love cleaning the house, because that could be the last time that you ever clean your house. It could be the last time you ever get on a bike. And so that was the first thing. And then the second part of that, as I kept going, was the realization that I was having in my daily life of come back and go to work on Monday. Like, how do I go to work on Monday when I literally just held someone that took their last breath? And I took time off and it wasn't enough. And then I needed mental health services because I thought I needed to keep going, right? So I had all these thoughts, didn't understand what was happening in my life, and I needed to keep going and I needed to be back to quote unquote normal. And so I called for mental health services and they told me it was a 6-month waiting list. And the only place that could take me was an 1.5-hour drive away from my house, which means that I would miss at least 1 day a week of work to go to mental health services. And that wasn't going to work either. And so I kept asking for more and more and more concessions at work and feeling guiltier and guiltier and guiltier, because I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to be productive. And then I realized that was a common theme of my life. That was a common theme, even of the racers' lives, that from the perception of what I was seeing. I have no idea what they were actually thinking that day, but my perception is if I keep going, everything will be normal. If I get to the finish line, everything will be normal. And for me, it was this final realization that like my life isn't meant to be normal. It's meant to be extraordinary. And I am now willing to stand up and figure out how to make that work. And that means that I'm not just going to get to go with the flow of the current of everyone else anymore. I have to stand up and I have to say we can do things differently and that's okay too. So it's kind of that two-part.
Wow. What were you experiencing, Nicole, in that time in between where you're attempting to go back to work, but you're not totally feeling like you could be there? When you were looking for mental health services, what were you experiencing like physically in your body or emotionally or mentally?
Yeah. So I knew at the time I had struggled with suicide before, like when I was very, 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 very young. And so I knew I wasn't feeling like that, but I knew something wasn't right. So I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I felt complete either apathy or way over dramatized emotions, meaning I was really angry, I was really sad, or I wanted no one to be around me. I was like, just go away. And at the same time, my mental chatter was just going, suck it up, Nicole, suck it up. Like everyone else is fine. Why are you not fine? And it felt like so much restriction. Like I felt it in my throat. I felt it in my chest, constant churning of my stomach. Like it felt like there was like an earthquake constantly going on inside of my stomach. And the more I tried to put one foot in front of the other, the louder the symptoms got. And then finally making that phone call, like, hey, I need counseling. And then hearing it's a 6-month wait. And the people on the other end weren't necessarily super kind. They were just like, well, do you want to hurt yourself or hurt someone else? And I was like, no. And they were like, okay, then it's a 6-month waiting list. And that was it. And I was like, it took a lot for me to call. And I had been in counseling off and on since I was 12 years old. Like, think about people that's maybe their first time. I'm like, and that moment, I remember I felt so lost. And I actually went to the chaplain of the hospital that I worked with. And I went and I said, I need help. And I don't know how or where to get it. This is what I'm running into. And luckily, this man is the most amazing man. He was actually a Catholic priest. And then he left the diocese and went through several different like iterations of himself. And so he shared with me, he shared Buddhism. He shared Christianity. He shared Catholicism. He shared saints with me. He shared all these pieces. And as he did that, I slowly felt things coming back together. And I knew I couldn't walk back into work. Like I was like, this isn't going to work for me anymore. And I also had to come to a huge realization that leaving work meant loving myself when other people would hate me. And that wasn't just like mental chatter, that ended up being a big part of reality. And that was the first time that I chose myself over other people. And that was a huge monumental move for me.
Wow. Oh, I get chills. This is so good, Nicole. Because I know many people listening are going to have had that moment of, I don't feel right. And it's been like the right amount of time. I'm doing air quotes, right, for the listener, for the audio. It's just like this, I don't know what you were told, but people around you are maybe thinking, hey, it's been long enough. Mm-hmm. Right. And so then you have to really dig deep of where do I go from here? Do I trust myself and my body that's saying it hasn't, like there's something else, or do I just one foot in front of the other, keep going to the job? Mm-hmm. It's a big decision in that moment. So what do you feel? And then I'm just curious timeline wise. And at some point you ended up hanging out with us over at Zesty, which we're very excited about. Nicole came to our Transformation Accelerator coaching practitioner training, although that was much further along the road. So when you found us, at what point of the journey were you in relation to this incident?
Okay. So in so July 2019 was like my massive wake up call. That was the Ironman event. And then I ended up leaving my job fully. I was completely done January 1st, 2020. So I put in actually a 90-day resignation because I was the leader of a sports program there. So I had multiple people that were really depending on me to run the vision of this program. So I completely left in January 2020. I was already enrolled in a mastermind with Jen Casey. Holler, she's so great. And so that was happening and there were events going on. So that had kind of been spanning this whole time. Well, Jen at the mastermind event, she told us, hey, I wouldn't be able to be here if it wasn't for Megan and Dr. Alex, because I had so much brain fog and I couldn't push through anymore. I felt like maybe my hormones were off. Maybe there was something else going on medically. And she was like, and then luckily I found them. They helped me get the testing and they helped me realize what else was happening. So she was kind of saying all this stuff. And I don't even remember if it was before the accident, kind of close after the accident, after I'd left, but it was in that like kind of whole mix of things. And so she, immediately spawned me off and I'm like, hey, maybe I can finally heal my period. Like I'd had a bad cycle since my very first cycle. And I was like, maybe I can like heal my own hormones and maybe that'll help with, and this is funny. I thought maybe that would help with my productivity. That's literally what I thought. I'm like, because if I'm not so sick for, 7-10 days, every time I have my period that I'm in bed and like can barely walk, then I can be more productive because now I get 10 days back every month. And so I waited and then I did, you guys had already launched your, the 12-week HTA. And, so I couldn't be in that round. I needed to wait for the next one. So then I was in your next round of HTA. And so that would have been spring of 2021.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so, and then I came into that event, which we've talked about this, but it's funny because I just wanted to heal like all parts of me that were like female. So I was like, oh, these are the female hormone experts. And you guys had just really taken the deep dive and changed HTA to more being the mindset pieces. And I remember you couldn't get a refund until week 4. So I get in on week 1 and I'm like, oh, I've read all of these books. I'm with Jen. I know these things. Like, oh my gosh. And I was like, well, I have to show that I did all the work or I can't get the refund. And I really want this testing in week 4. So I guess I'm going to keep going. And so then I get to week 4 and I'm like, oh man, this stuff's actually working whenever you do it. So I did the testing, and kept going with the program. And lo and behold, as now you guys know, like I went to their 1 week long training for neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, all quantum time technique. And I already had that certification. Like, so I came because I was so vested in the transformation that you guys provided for me when I thought I was coming in as like a beginner's or a learning mindset, but I wasn't. I was like, hey, just give me the one thing that's going to finally fix me and make me productive so that I can be like everybody else. And what I needed to do was accept myself as I was and start creating my own protocols for healing and trusting myself. So all of this was just kind of continuing to snowball with that trust yourself.
I am also popping in to share a bit about our sponsors, Needed, as in thisisneeded.com. If you follow the link in the show notes, you'll be able to check out their products and get 20% off with the code Zesty. But about them, so Needed is a company that was created and thought of by 2 women, so like Megan and I, and we relate a lot to their story of looking around and realizing things like, oh my gosh, there's so many people, especially women, reproductive age, who are on things like multivitamins and prenatals and stuff, and yet when we do testing, 97% of people, and this is across literature, have nutrient deficiencies. Why is the formulation like this? Why is this happening? What is occurring? And more importantly, What can we do about it? And that question is what they answered with products that have been researched to be formulated with the forms and the amounts and the quantities of things that can be utilized by the body in an efficient manner, in a way that actually gets to the end result without causing problems along the way. And so that's what they were looking at. And so we really, really appreciate their products. They have everything from a multi to a probiotic options, and even a men's line. And specifically, if you are reproductive age-ish, as in you know you want kids, or you have kids, or you're have grown multiple and are recovering, any and all of those people will find the line very, very applicable to them. But even if that's not you, they absolutely have products. So check those out. We're super grateful for the sponsors. We've been using the products ourselves as well, and we're really, really loving them. So back to the show.
Right. So, okay. So you went to one NLP training and you got certified, and then you decided you were ready for more transformation and you were willing to do it again, which we loved, because that's the kind of people that we end up working with. They're just all in, and they know the power of repetition. I mean, that's the kind of thing you can't really hear too much ever. I know I've been through the level 1 myself probably 6 times, because in order to become a trainer, you have to learn it and over. So tell me a little bit about that. Was there big difference in the second round in how you showed up? Like, were you able to get more out of it because you were a different person by then?
Yeah. So number one, when I went through my first program, I was still working a full-time job. So I loved the first program that I went through. It was an online, which worked really well. So this was all happening during 2020. And it was 3 hours of like workbook work and then 3 hours online at night. Well, I loved that I got these connections with these great women during times of COVID. Like that felt really supportive to me. I just left my job. So that really helped. But at the same time, I'm still like transitioning out of my job. I'm trying to figure out how to run a household, because I also had this idea that if you quit your job and now you're at home, even though you're trying to run a business, that you should do everything. So my kid's at home with me. So I'm doing homeschool. I'm doing all the household stuff. And so I really was there to learn the task so that I could make money. Wasn't really about me being on my own healing journey. It wasn't even about me understanding. I understood I was missing something as a physical therapist. People would lay on my table and they would like divulge these things. And I was like, oh gosh, I need to hold space for this person, but I've actually never been able to taught how to hold space. And I was aware that people were confiding in me because they trusted who I was, but I still didn't have the tools to hold the proper space for them. And so as we're going through, those transition times, it was still about the task of learning. Like, okay, can I do anchoring? Perfect. Yes, I can. Go and apply it to a client. Go and get a client. And I didn't understand still. I was seeing pieces and parts of myself and pieces and parts of learning. When I got through HTA and then with you guys, and then I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to do this live event. Number one, being in live energy is insane. Like it's so different. I love hybrid businesses. I love when people have stuff online because it's accessible. It allows different cultures, different ideas, different backgrounds, all to be in the same room together, to learn how to trust each other, to make sure it's the right container to be actually in person together. When all those things are set up and then you're in person together, like literally like the mind blown emoji. I mean, times 1,000. It's crazy what happens. When I showed up, because of all the work that I was doing with you guys, I showed up and I said, this is the one time I'm going to choose to be 100% myself. This is the first time I've ever said that. I was so scared. I remember talking to you, Megan, and you were like, what will happen if you show up 100% as yourself? You ask for your needs to be met. And I said, everyone will hate me and you're going to kick me out of your group and I won't be invited back. I really believed that about myself. And I said, okay, worst case scenario, I trust Megan and Dr. Alex that they really will remove me. Like, number one, they're not going to let me like hurt other people, right? That was also one of my fears. Like, what if I actually hurt other people? What if underneath all of this like layering of conditioning, I'm actually a really evil person? And that guilt that had built up over time. And I thought the only way to get rid of that guilt was to become what other people wanted me to. And so I walked through the door of our house and I was just like, this is me. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to ask for what I need. I'm going to hold people in kindness. And I'm all in for 7 days to be myself. And now I can't go back. Like, I'm like, oh, this is just me now.
It just stuck.
Yeah. Because turns out people still liked me and I liked me a heck of a lot better. And I trusted me a lot more.
Right. I love that takeaway. Turns out not only people liked you, maybe liked you even better because if for anybody who's been around Nicole in person, like you can feel her energy. She's contagious and she just has this joy and excitement. So we like want to know what's inside. And I think people feel really connected. And when you are like really open and vulnerable and letting us know what's inside, because we're like, well, we want that, what's on the outside. So tell us. And when you are open, sharing, maybe there's something inside that you don't want to share. We're like, oh, good. We have those things inside too. Yeah. So we can also get to the place outside, right, of feeling happy or being a joyful person or having that kind of energy. So I just want to thank you for showing up in that such an amazing way. We had such a good group where everyone really was like, okay, we're here to do that. We're here to do this. And we're all in. What was the biggest, was there anything surprising that happened during the week because you showed up all in like that?
So there was a couple of things. So I like love soaking in tubs. It's my absolute favorite thing. It's how I kind of come down at the end of every day here. And I was on a pull-out couch in the middle of our like Airbnb. And I'm like, well, nothing's going to say you need your needs met, like just being out here in the open with everyone. And so one of the girls had the master bedroom and it had this big soaker tub. And I was like, hey, can I take a bath or whatever whenever we get done today? And she was like, yeah, of course. And then the next day I was like, hey, do you care if I get in and soak and then we can eat dinner? And I remember she was like, actually, I don't care if you soak, but can you be done by 7? Because I want to like talk to my husband, or maybe she said 9, something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's actually completely fine. And I remember being so excited that she set a boundary, and I felt no guilt. I felt none of this like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I guess I shouldn't have asked and I won't ask tomorrow. And like I normally would have. Instead, I was just like, yeah, actually, that feels really good to me. I'll go and get that done right now so that you can be in there. Thank you so much for sharing what felt good to you. And then that's just how our house went the rest of the time. And that to me was like, wow, these are the types of women I want to be around all the time. This is the type of marriage that I want to have. This is the type of relationship that I want to have with my kids too, where we can communicate and there doesn't need to be guilt overlying it in order to get someone to quote unquote do what you want them to do, or for me to feel guilt and then I change myself for other people so that they'll like me. And all of that just gone, like so crazy. So that was the first one. And then the second one was I think it was the last day, maybe. It's either the last day or the second to last day. And I remember you guys had said, like, as the week progresses, you'll like keep feeling better and better and better. And I get to the last day, the second to last day, and I am like not feeling good. I don't want to go. I'm mad. A lot of stuff had come up and I had felt okay with it in the moment. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not okay. This makes me angry. I don't want to see people. And I literally told the girls in the house, I was like, FYI, I'm going to have like a massive temper tantrum in here on my bed because it's the only way that I'm going to go today. And I am fine. I do not need an intervention in any way. If I need something from you, I will ask, but right now, like, this has got to get out. And I literally laid down on my bed and I'm like kicking and screaming in my pillow. And I'm like saying cuss words. I'm like, F this. I don't want to go. I don't like these people. I don't want to work on myself anymore. Like, what is wrong with me? And I was like, you told me I would be happy. Yeah, it's losing my mind. And then finally I get through and it like goes through that big, just letting it all out, and it just tapers down and I finally feel calm and I'm like, okay, we can get in the car now. And that was a huge moment for me because I just expressed what needed to be expressed. And then I got to the place where we were at. I journaled. And then I ended up asking Michelle. I was like, hey, I need some help to continue to process. She set me up with one of the other girls, Katie. We did this amazing session. And all of a sudden, that's truly the moment that guilt, when it was like, it's gone. And that was really, so those two instances of really showing up and feeling that change in the moment were big for me.
Oh, I love that you bonded with your household so much. And I love that this is something that I'm right now really working with my kids on, the idea of when you can be in a container like that, right? Where there are 5 people, right, Nicole, in that house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can be in that container and you realize like, I can just, me as a, past perfectionist people pleaser, that you can just say, this is what I need. And you can trust that the other people will say, okay, awesome. Although this is what I need. Like, how can we make that work together? Versus the mind reading that I did as a kid. I was like the bring everybody together in the middle person, right? Like keep everybody happy. And I realized I was passing that on to my kids in some scenarios of telling them, I was like, yeah, I know that person said that you can do that thing anytime you want. I was like, but I know because I hear the chatter that really they didn't mean that. And that is actually too much. And then I realized what I was doing was telling them not to believe what someone said at face value, and then to try to read into like their body language and of my kids are great at, body language and understanding. Although like, I want them to actually just believe what people say and do it. And if that person didn't mean it, that person's then going to have to deal with it, right? They're going to have to come back and be like, oh, wow, yeah, I actually didn't mean that. Right. And it's just so cool that you all got to essentially like practice that in real time in a house together.
It was amazing. And like, I'm just so appreciative too of them like playing along and like they did it too. Everybody just showed up for themselves. And that's a hard thing to do. That in and of itself is really big. And so I'm so glad that I was able to be around so many people that decided to make that choice, because it also, in 7 days, it allowed me to see and realize that I could be myself. Without them playing along, I don't know if I would have had as profound of an outcome where I just 7 days and then I walk away and I'm like, actually, this is who I am now. This is how I communicate now. And that was life-changing for me. So it's also just such gratitude for the containers that you guys put together too, that hold that kind of honesty for people.
So it's like you came in for a period, then you came into the other for some money, and you got a very different outcome. I love it.
Yeah. And at the same point, very different outcome. And also, like, I healed my period. My period is 3 days long. It's freaking amazing. Like, I can travel on it. Like, it is the bomb diggity. And I had my biggest launch I've ever had with 19 women in my group coaching program. And that is 13 larger than any launch I've ever had. So like, I got that too without focusing on it, by being authentic.
Congratulations. Is this in the happiness project?
Yep.
Yes. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this. How have you integrated everything you were doing before with what you learned about yourself and the new tools? Like how are you operating now?
It's weird because I can't even like It just feels like I'm operating as me.
No words. Yes.
Like, because it's just the mental chatter is either gone. So it's just not there anymore. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I just made that decision and that actually wasn't a big deal. Or the mental chatter comes up and I know that it's not a sign to ignore it. That's a huge thing. It's a sign to actually, I sit down and I just write whatever it is that is being said in my brain. And then I just look at it and I say, is that true? And then I decide what emotions come up with that. And even if I feel as though it's true to me right now, I just say, is that something I want to continue to believe? And I just move forward with it. So essentially that really strong mental chatter is now just a time for me to say, hey, pause. You need to move and get alone for just a little bit. It might just need to be an extra 5 minutes in the car. It might just need to be like, hey, I'm going to go back to my bedroom and process. And that, like what you were saying with your kids, that's also when I want to show my kids, my spouse, is when these things are happening, when I'm feeling angry, I actually go and throw a temper tantrum as long as it's a safe place to do that. Because that's really what my body wants. I'm guessing eventually the temper tantrums are going to slow down. But right now I've ignored that 2-year-old self and told myself to be a good girl for, 35 years. And it's ready to come out. So I just honor those and I take those lessons as a pause. And that's really the only difference. It either doesn't exist because that pattern is gone for me, or it exists and it's just like an immediate sign to pause, to listen, and to really decide what I want to be true.
Beautiful. Okay. Tell us about how your program works and how you're serving people differently now.
Yeah. So what I do is at first I thought, I don't want to be a physical therapist anymore. And in reality, I actually loved my job. I just had a lot of work PTSD that I had to work through. So I combined the physical therapy with all the mindset tools, the neuro-linguistic programming, and then my years working with professional athletes as well as my own healing journey. And I started to develop this protocol. So actually, those of you guys have known that we have adopted all of our children. Our last adoption will probably be done this year. So right now, technically our oldest is with us through the foster system. And so Maddie, our youngest, who will be 2 soon, and Braxton, our oldest, who came to live with us when he was 14, they came to live with us all within 4 months. And I thought I would keep working and doing all the things, because even though I was healed, there's still always different ways that it shows up for us. Right. And then, finally in August, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I sent out an email. I shut down my entire physical therapy business. I was like, I'm done. I took 4 months off. I had no idea whether I would ever work again. And anyone that's listening to this that gets some of their self-worth from working, it's extremely scary. I went to school for a long time. I was a straight A student. And I literally in that moment said, I am not working and I'm going to stay at home with my kids and heal myself. And I had no idea if I was actually going to ever work in my own business. And my business had been a thing of, okay, this is still where I get a lot of self-worth. I'm still one of the best physical therapists. People still really want to see me and I'm in high demand. And I just completely let that go. And I had no idea how long that would last. And so it ended up lasting about 4 months and really ended about 3 days before the January event with you guys. And I had this moment. I knew I was going to the January event and I was like, if I go and it's for myself, that falls in alignment with what I'm doing. I didn't make it mean a work thing at all. But about 3 days before, I was literally washing dishes. And all of a sudden I was like, I wonder if I could love myself if this is what I did. I washed dishes. I took care of my kids. I did fun things. I danced around the house while I cleaned. Can I love myself if this is my life, at least right now. And all of a sudden I started dying laughing. I was like, yeah, I can. Like, this is awesome. And then right with that was like, and I'm ready to work because I know I can do both and I can love both sides of me and I can be both whenever I need to. And I was like, well, that was cool. And so then I came to the January event, world rocked again. And that's whenever I signed up and I was like, hey, I'm in for level 1. I'm in for coaching. I'm in for really the deep dive. I'm in for the repeatability of HTA, the cycle that you guys teach, because I knew how powerful that was. And in that 4 months off, I actually developed my own program just through my own healing. I was just journaling. So I went back through and that was the program that I launched whenever I got back from the January event. So it's the happiness cycle. It's 4 weeks. So it's super fast because I ask women, can you just commit to yourself for 4 weeks? That's all it is. It's 1 month out of 12 of 1 year of your life. Can you do that? And it's specifically for women who have been taking care of everything and everyone else, and they want to learn how to take care of themselves. And we go through. So the protocol is 4 weeks. The first week is the physical body. It spells getting paid because, I just believe that everyone should get paid, but not necessarily in money. There's lots of other ways to get paid too, in addition to. So physical body is the first one. The second week is all about alignment. So we dive into core values, your life purpose outside of your roles and responsibilities. And we start learning about human design. The third week is intentionality. This is where we go into goals and beliefs and the energetics of how you're showing up within the identity you want to be. And then the last week is doing the work. So now it's like, okay, take all these things, set free. This is a repeatable cycle you can do in any moment, in any day, and inside any goal. Now doing the work, what's the balance of seasons of your life? What's the balance of masculine and feminine energy? What's the balance of rest and play? And really putting those together. And so we're on our second round and these women are like just cracking my soul right open. They're so awesome.
I love that. So that means people can work with you remotely online.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No.
Yay. All over the world.
All over the world. Yeah. We have people from all over the US, but I've worked with people all over the world, even in my past practice, because I've been online since 2019. So yeah, I've worked with people from Australia. Man, that time zone is a rough one. But anywhere in the world, people are welcome to connect with me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. The story from the start and just really sharing your transition is so helpful. I heard so much of my story in that, so I imagine everybody else did as well. And we will make sure to have your Instagram in the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with Nicole. Go find her, go follow her. Please, we both would love your feedback. So if you want to tag us on Instagram, share a story, your biggest takeaways. There were a lot of really good nuggets in this, Nicole. So thank you for your time and for showing up as you.
You're welcome. Thank you for helping me find me.
We have some exciting news. Doors to the next round of our signature Transformation Accelerator program are opening soon. Our 12-week virtual group program teaches you the exact 7-step process that we use to reach any goal, from optimizing your health all the way to reaching a goal in our business or manifesting a dream lake house. And here's an amazing transformation story from one of our participants.
I used to think that there was a very specific road, a very specific plan, a way that would get me out of my stress, that I should move forward with my health or with my career or with anything really, that had to be done a particular way. And if I wasn't doing it right, and if I wasn't doing all the things, then I was the reason why X, Y, and Z wasn't getting better. What I learned is that there is another option. There's the possibility of doing parasympathetic tools that you actually enjoy, like going outside or singing a song. There was the possibility of being able to be my own advocate and make my own plan for what worked for me. And it didn't have to be doing all the things all the time. And come to find out, that's what helped me take care of my body. That's what helped me take care of my mind, was finding something that was supportive of me and realizing that it didn't have to be what worked for someone else. It didn't have to be everything. And it didn't have to be even the things that supported me. It didn't have to be all of them every single day. It was creating a different relationship with the things that we can do to make ourselves feel better, whether it's exercise or journaling or parasympathetic tools or spending time with friends and family or creating boundaries. I just found that I can actually listen to my own brain and let the rest just kind of fall into place.
I bet you already know that your daily habits create your reality. But did you know that your habits are run by your unconscious mind? This is where your beliefs were formed, mostly from 0 to 7 years old. It's crazy, right? How can you expect yourself to have healthy habits and lead to up-level and transformation and success if you don't first rewire your unconscious beliefs that were formed in that 7-year-old version of you? Come join us. Come join us for our free 3-part series to learn how to use functional NLP to accomplish your biggest goals and turn your dreams into reality. If you're ready to finally develop a leadership mindset, find a more empowered place within yourself, learn exactly how to model your own success behaviors, and of course, connect with an amazing action-taking peer group to hold you accountable, then you do not want to miss this 3-part virtual experience. We've distilled our very best success secrets into the most highly impactful tools, resources, and ways of thinking that lead people to create success in their lives. And we want that for you. So save your seat today at becomingzesty.com/success. We'll see you there. Stay zesty.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.